for you and Conor Benn?
Unbelievable. I mean, look, obviously beating Queensbury 2-0 was nice, but that was just on another level. I mean, absolute masterclass schooling. You know, Eubank didn't win a round, very lucky not to get stopped in the last. But listen, respect to him, he's a very brave man. But it was a great performance from Conor Benn. Totally different fight to the first fight, but it needed to be, just that to keep his emotions in check. And I knew he could make it easy like that because he's much better. But giving up the weight gives you a little bit of a disadvantage, but tonight he just showed his quality. Eubank, as I said, coming into his fight, I think it'll be his last fight. That last fight that Conor Benn gave him would have taken a huge amount out of him, and he just got beat by the younger, better, fresher man tonight.
Did you expect that type of performance from Conor Benn? Because you were quite confident all week.
Because, I mean, he was still explosive. I mean, don't forget, he won every round, and in the 12th, he's still trying to stop him. When I'm just going, just circle. I'm like, I can't, just chill, and he's like still going for the finish. But that's what Conor Benn's about, and tonight he had to do something that he's never really done before, which is just stay calm and don't be reckless. Just be precise, work the body, land clean, jab, move your head on the way in, just the basic stuff. And he did it beautifully well, and that was absolutely, as they say in the trade, sweet as a fucking nut.
Is that the end of that chapter with Eubank? Obviously,
yeah,
it's closed.
He's that. I mean, you can't have a rematch when you've just won 13-0.
Everything. The way Chris boxed there just showed you how hard making the weight was for him last time. The older he is, the way I could get you down to 2 stone. You might not be able to tie your shoelaces, but I can get you down. So even though he got down to it, you saw the effect of it there. It looked like a man walking in slow motion in quicksand. Conor was all over him. Well deserved to the end. Chris had nothing to give. And that, you remember the last fight, Chris had nothing left to give. Conor did. The way Conor boxed, he did. He never left him alone. Ripped his heart out. He did the right thing.
What was the difference? Was Conor Benn better today, or has Eubank Jr deteriorated? What was the difference?
Both. They're both going. It's like a pendulum. Conor knew what he could do. Didn't think, I'm not sure what I can get away with from the last fight. For Chris, the pendulum is, which rinsed himself down that much, he's thinking he can do it again. As I said, anybody can get down to the weight. It's what you can do at the weight. Boxing's the worst place to be if you aren't going to put yourself at a disadvantage, because it's the only place you can legally get killed. And so what Chris did was, Chris depleted any advantage he had in the first fight. And again, in this fight here, what did he expect? Conor just had to put him under pressure, keep up the pace. He took the pace, made him work constantly. And when you make him work constantly, that's how he starts.
Unfortunately, for me, the fight didn't live up to the expectations. I'm extremely underwhelmed. How they've pulled that off. Very, very, very poor fight. Disappointing. It came alive in the last round. That's it. The last round it happened, and Conor Benn got the win. Rightly so. But Eubanks tonight didn't turn up. Old overnight. His legs weren't in it. Came in a pound light at the weigh-in, which probably has something to do with it. But Father Time caught up with him, and they've pulled off a heist tonight. That's what they've done. They've made an absolute fortune out of a nothing fight. It was not a patch on the first one. Obviously, that first fight took everything out of them both. Conor Benn came in a bit more cautious, did the right thing, just picked through with his jab. Nobody expected him to do it. I didn't expect him to do it. And Eubanks had really nothing to offer. The shots that came in, the first shot that put Eubank down actually skimmed past Eubank's ear and caught him on, just past the temple. The second shot was the back of the head. They weren't clean shots, but it just shows how fragile he was, that he was going down from shots like that, because the right hand, what hit him in the first knockdown, went past his ear. It did connect, but it wasn't a blow coming into the side. It skimmed past him and it toppled him over. So what does that actually say?
Really happy, and thank God it's over. Listen, like I said in the press conference Thursday, Conor had to make adjustments when he fought Chris in the return, and I felt like he made the adjustments. He stuck to the game plan. His feet was good tonight. His boxing ability was good tonight, and he was fortunate for Chris that bell went in the last round, because it was virtually over then. But he won so clearly, and he boxed smart. Didn't lose his head and swing punches all over the place, and I'm really proud of him.
So it was a completely different fight, obviously, from the first fight. Is that what Conor Benn had to do just to make sure, and it was a comfortable victory in the end, but to fight that way, to make sure regardless of whether it was as exciting as the first one, just get the job done.
Yeah, of course. And you know, we had the game plan, and he stuck to the game plan, and he won convincingly. And that's all it's about, is getting a win at the end of the day. I mean, the icing was nearly on, you know, on the cake in the last round. But listen, I'm proud of him. He boxed smart with a cool head, and he won the fight convincingly.
What do you do with Conor now? Who do you look at? Like Lewis Crocker?
Yeah, look, all the champions at 47. Lewis Crocker, of course, he really wants that WBC title. Marios Barrios, you've got Rolly Romero, you've got the winner of Haney against Norman. Conor Benn's just filled an arena, 70,000 twice. He's a massive star of British boxing, so nice rest over Christmas. You know, and I said in the ring as well, I think it's important to say, I noticed tonight that Movember is one of the sponsors for the show, and Movember is all about kind of raising mental health awareness for men, and particularly suicide rates. If you had any idea the shit that Conor Benn was in his life, fighting this case, right, to the point where he was having to sell everything he had. He was in hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of debt because he wouldn't give up trying to win this case and prove himself. And when I say mentally shot, he was a completely broken man. And maybe he might tell you one day how low he really was, but trust me when I say he was banging trouble. There was no way out, and that is a great lesson to people out there. When you think there's no way out, stay with it, keep the faith. And that's what Conor Benn did. He worked as hard as he could every day, and look at him now. Like I say, just what, a year and a half ago, finished, rock bottom, no way out. He's just fought Chris Eubank twice, secured his and his kids' legacies and financial legacy forever, and he's just become one of the biggest stars in British boxing. And good on him, because I tell you what, he's a good bloke with a good heart.
Why was he not able to let his hands go? The last fight was only 6 months ago.
Yeah, but he's, like I said, time's caught up. What is he, 32 is he? And Ben's 28. Yeah, he's a bit like, time catches up. That's what happens. He just couldn't fire, could he? Couldn't fire. And like I said, the first fight, he had to dig deep. It meant something the first fight. They didn't know they were going to have a rematch. And Eubanks had to win. Maybe he's got into this fight, I think, well, if he beats me, it's 1-1, whatever. But he just didn't have that fire in his belly tonight. You know, maybe he's just lost the taste for it. But for me, you know, I don't come to many live events. It was a very underwhelming fight till the last round, and even then the finish wasn't fantastic. I'm pleased for Tony Sims that he's got the win. They've had to think about what they've done. They've played it smart. They didn't go rushing in and allow Conor Benn to be there to get it by Eubank. But to be honest, Eubank wasn't accurate tonight at all. Very, very inaccurate in what he threw.
Conor's next step will be dropping down to 147 and trying to claim the world title. And obviously he wants to emulate Nigel of being a world champion. So, you know, his next fight will be down at his natural weight.
But just last one, under massive pressure, Conor, obviously off the back of that loss, to come here and deliver, which he did.
Yeah, exactly, you know, and, you know, he worked hard, he worked really hard in the gym, and he badly wanted to win this fight. And, you know, of course he was under pressure to it. He wanted to have a win over the Eubanks for his dad as well. So, but listen, it's onwards and upwards now, and get back down to 147 and go and win that world title.
Second battle between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. had a tense atmosphere well before each man swung the first punch, and it was no more pronounced than at the weigh-in, when Eubank Jr. weighed in at 160.05 pounds, a bit above the agreed limit of 160. But after his weight cut, he came in at the weigh-in at 159.1 pounds, demonstrating his commitment and attitude towards the fight. Chris Eubank Jr. sounded ice cold when he was contemplating the years of work that had led him to his next match. He stated that the long preparation period had been in his favor, as it had enabled him to polish all aspects of his game without experiencing any pressure. It was in his tone that he perceived the whole process, which is not only physical training but also media attention and the expectations of the matchup as under his control.
This light work, this build up, this camp, these last 7 months have been a breeze. And I'm very confident it's going to be the same outcome.
Conor Benn had spoken maturely when he was talking about the reality of defeat. He admitted that fighters never go to camp hoping to lose, but he accepted that defeats were a part of a long career in the ring. His voice had honesty and strength, indicating that he knew how important being able to compete at such a high level is, despite the fact that the outcome was not in his favor. He said, "It's hard, obviously, taking a loss. We don't prepare for a loss, but ultimately you win some, you lose some, and you know, I'd rather lose an exciting fight than win a boring one." Conor Benn had talked with maturity when dealing with the fact of a defeat. He admitted that fighters never go into camp thinking that they would lose, but he was open to the fact that failures were part of a long career in the ring. There was sincerity and strength in his tone, and he could have known that it was worth competing on a high level even when it was not in his favor.
I learned a lot about Chris in the first fight. I learned about his resilience, his strength, his chin, his courage, his heart, and it took me by surprise. I didn't expect that from Chris.
This was not simply a boxing match, and it was a part of a grudge that has to be settled. Benn is heir to the name of his father, Nigel Benn, and Eubank Jr. is the son of the boxing legend Chris Eubank Sr., whose own feud with Nigel Benn characterized the boxing of the 1990s in Britain. Carl Frosch had demystified the fight as surely as a man who had observed every technique, every change of tactics, and every mental advantage in the build-up to a big fight. He said that Chris Eubank Jr. was still rounded and as capable, but thought that Conor Benn had improved since their last meeting. Froch opined that both fighters were now armed with enough experience, conditioning, and ring IQ to take this rematch to a deep level.
Who's going to seriously win this? Who looks like, feels like they're going to come out of this the victor? And you can't write off Chris Eubank Jr. because he's the naturally bigger man. And they always say a good big one always beats a good little one. But in this case, I just think Conor Benn, slightly better, slightly more improved, fitter, stronger, grown into the weight a bit against a slightly tarnished Chris Eubank Jr. could be the difference. But this fight could go either way. I don't think anyone's getting knocked out or stopped. I think it's going to go the distance. They're both going to come through some bumpy rounds. It's going to ebb and flow, but ultimately it will come down to points decision. I'm waffling on now, but I'm going to pick Conor Benn to win on a tight points decision. Let me know what you think in the comments.
This in-depth analysis of Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. rematch, it is evident that this is not a fight. It is a fight of legacy, ability, and tactics. Judging by the calculated and trained self-control in Benn and the better discipline and astute spacing in Eubank Jr., the two men are making the most of what they have built up through years of highs and lows and intensive training. The fans all over the world are abuzz. Conversations are going on blazing in the virtual world, and the stakes have never been higher. Who will come up to the occasion and stamp himself on this historic rivalry? Like that button, in case you are excited about the fight night, leave your call and make your predictions in the comments. And do not forget to subscribe to all the updates and the professional analysis of the world of boxing.